Hey guys, what is up? My name is Eric, also known as Aviator, and I'm coming at you live once again from my home here in Central Florida. Now today is Thursday, and I've got a really cool video for you today. I'm really excited about it. It's actually taken a lot of work to put together, and it's the final of 3 parts of my epic ultralight adventure series. See, this series is probably one of the most well received, I could say, on my channel so far. You guys seem to really enjoy the adventure videos where I take you guys or tell you a story about one of the adventures I've had in my life. This one in particular happens to be when I was flying a small little ultralight aircraft, a Rans S-14, from South Florida to Northwest Arkansas when I was 16 years old. You guys seem to dig it, and this is part 3. So I will let you guys watch that in just a second. Before I do so, let me introduce you to the gameplay you'll be watching while it's going on. I'm playing Nuketown Domination. I'm playing with the Gold Galil I just bought, and don't normally post Nuketown because I don't normally do well on Nuketown. This is actually one of the first games I've ever done well on it ever since the beginning of the game came out. I don't know why, I just can't seem to do well, or consistently anyway. So a lot of fun, good gameplay, good times. I was playing with my live stream group and had an absolute blast on the live stream. We have actually a new live stream channel, guys. The link's in the description below, twitch.tv/aviator, spelled A-V-I-A-T-O-R, like a normal person would, so definitely check that out as well. There will be a live stream going on right after this video goes live, so if you watch this soon after it was uploaded, make sure you check in, and maybe I'll get to play with you. Maybe we'll get to play together. I can't get my words today, guys. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you enjoy the film, and look for a new series coming this week, new adventure series next week, and more awesomeness coming soon. Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Alright guys, welcome back. When I last left you, I had just landed in Alabama, had been picked up by a couple of guys in their pickup truck, was dropped off at a hotel, and was eating Pizza Hut. Actually, 2 gigantic pizzas from Pizza Hut because, well, that's what we 16-year-old boys do. So, in the last 2 parts, we've had a plethora of different little adventures. From hanging out with rednecks and old guys at different airports across the nation, to learning how to set a fire and get away with it from some really cool firefighters in Perry, Florida, to building some really cool business relationships that would pay off later with some guys I met at an airport up in North Florida. Really, guys, it's been an amazing trip so far, but there's still over 500 miles to go and many adventures to be had. Early the next morning, I caught a ride back to the airport by way of a gas station to make sure that I could get back up in the air and head northwest. See, I had to fly all the way across Alabama and Mississippi in order to make my way to the border of Arkansas. Once I got to Arkansas, I had to fly all the way up to the northwest corner near Fayetteville to drop the airplane off at the buyer's home where he'd built a small airstrip. Now here's the thing. The first day was a long day, a very full day, lots of miles covered, lots of experiences, and as I've mentioned before, quite a few adventures. However, this day would be even more full. I had to fly across 3 states. I had to do all that I could to get there before it was dark. So, the crack of dawn, I made my way back to the airstrip, as I mentioned before, hopped in the airplane, fueled it up, and away we went. Now, Alabama is not a huge state. It didn't take too long to get across Alabama. But once I reached Mississippi, I had to go across the state diagonally, which I have to tell you is quite some way. But the cool thing about Mississippi was just how rural it was. It is one of the most beautiful states to fly across, particularly in the early fall. See, there are rice paddies and cornfields and wheat fields and I don't even know. Tons of fields. I wish I was a better field expert, I guess. But in all seriousness, guys, it was incredible. Here's a couple of photos from the rice paddies I was flying over and whatnot. It was beautiful and peaceful and clear. And after a full day of the day before where I was flying through that haze that was just disgusting for so long, it was perfect. It was like someone had flicked a light switch and just made the entire sky just mine. It was beautiful. There was very little air traffic in the air because it was a weekday. It's actually something not a lot of people know, but oftentimes during the week, there's way less air traffic for small planes than there is on the weekends because most pilots, they're doctors or whatever, and they have a day job. So during the week, they can't fly, but on the weekends, man, it's crazy how many more people are up flying. Anyway, as I'm flying across Mississippi, looking at these beautiful fields and everything else, I start looking below me and seeing small yellow aircraft flying low, flying fast, and spraying the crops. Now, I've always loved crop dusters. My uncle was a crop duster right out of high school. He actually went to the Air Force Academy, but in between high school and the Air Force Academy, he spent some time, I believe out in Kansas, dusting fields. And I was amazed by this, the concept of being able to fly as low as you wanted to and doing a job and being able to land on back roads to refuel. It seemed so free. I always loved it. I really did. So as I watched these guys flying below me, crop dusting these fields, flying their big, huge turbine-powered behemoth of aircraft. I mean, they're just amazing planes to fly with more power than you ever could really use, which in my opinion is never a bad thing. You want to have as much power as possible. As I keep watching these guys fly below me, I decide to follow one. So I basically watched where he was going and went and landed behind him at some small airstrip and had a great conversation with a few of the old crop dust pilots and their boss, who was actually a retired crop dusting pilot. Now, the interesting thing about crop dusting is that a lot of these guys are spraying pesticides that are so incredibly dangerous and deadly that they all have really unique stories. The old retired crop duster pilot, the boss of the gang, actually told me an old story about when he was a kid growing up in the early days of crop dusting and the experiences they had with the chemicals back then before they really knew that much about safety. See, these guys used to just literally believe, and this is something that you can look up, people used to say that God gave you your skin to keep all the bad things out. That it was like a glove that God had made for you. And for some reason, this was logical back in the 20s and 30s. That they all thought that nothing could penetrate the skin, everything would be fine, and no worries. The problem was, once we started creating these chemicals that were much more dangerous, people would try to, put this to the test. And they used these different chemicals that would end up killing them. The old guy told me the story about some relative of his that he was hanging out with at the crop dust field way back when, I guess he was probably in the early 30s most likely. And he put his arm into a vat of toxin, pesticides they were using to kill some kind of boll weevil or something in a cotton field, and died 40 seconds later. Just arm in, arm out, dead. I was blown away. Obviously, these kind of stories you just can't beat. It's real life in such an incredible way because to them, it's every day. The stuff they've talked about before, it's stuff they're careful of now. They know that you have to be really careful around toxic chemicals because, well, they're toxic chemicals and they're dangerous. But I never really even considered that that would be an option. That someone could think that they could stick their arm into a barrel full, or not a barrel, but a bucket full of toxin and live. It's just amazing to me. Hanging out with these crop dusters was absolutely amazing. It was really neat to kind of get a little peek inside of someone else's life, something that would not be part of my day-to-day life. But after I hung out for a while, I took off, and I made the last leg of my journey. See, I had about 2.5 hours more of flying to do, so I had a couple more stops. But it seemed like everything had changed. Because as I took off from northwest Mississippi, the look of the land completely changed. Suddenly, the flat fields and rice paddies and everything else that I've been flying over changed. There were hills. There were trees. It was densely wooded at times, coming across this area where the rolling hills turn into what are I guess you could call them small mountains. I mean, probably 1,300 to 1,500 foot high hills. I'm from Florida. To me, 150 feet's a mountain. So, it was absolutely beautiful. It was so cool to see something that I would not normally see, especially to fly across it. But it was a little bit scary too. See, being from Florida, we have a lot of flat space around, whether it's cattle fields or just parking lots. There's tons of flat and empty space. And when you're flying ultralights, you're flying an aircraft that's not exactly the most reliable. See, the motors they put on these actually are derived from the motors you'd find in a jet ski or a snowmobile. These motors are 2-cycle, they're high power output for low weight, which means that they work really well, but they're definitely not reliable. So whenever you're flying an ultralight, you're basically the entire time you're flying, you're looking for where you would land if your engine quits. So now I've gone from Florida, where I have basically endless possibilities of places to land, to flying in a state that has, well, basically nothing open. All I had was the interstates. And I'm here to tell you, the concept of landing on an interstate sounds easy until you realize how many trucks and cars are on that interstate. So I followed the interstate, I followed the freeways, prayed that they had a median that if my engine quit, I could land in. I'd be all right. Because, at 16, almost 17 years old, I think I'd already had 4 or 5 engine outs, a couple of different off-field landings. Now at 25, I've had 12 engine outs, 8 off-field landings. 13 engine outs now. Geez, we were in a jump plane, skydiving, I guess last year. And I wasn't flying the airplane, but the engine quit and we had to land. So that was pretty exciting. But anyway, so you're flying along, just basically using the interstates as your guide, looking at the maps, trying to make sure you know exactly where you're going. And it's just this whole different experience because the world changed as I flew across it. I don't know if any of you guys have done any traveling or any extensive traveling where you've been in a vehicle for an extended period of time. Just watching the world change, it's some kind of interesting magic. Every time I fly across the country, the moment I get in the airplane to the moment I get out of the airplane, it's like a magical transformation experience, crazy shenanigans, nitwit banana sandwich. It's awesome. You climb in the airplane in Florida and 5 hours later you're in California and things have changed, or 3 hours later you're in Colorado in the snow. I don't know. I love traveling. There's something about traveling that just invokes this spirit of adventure in me that I think is beautiful and exciting. So let me go ahead and walk you through the last few minutes of my trip. As I grew closer, I started flying lower, trying to find the area I knew I'd be flying to. I wasn't flying to some actual airport. I was actually flying to this guy's tiny little backyard airstrip that he'd built in preparation for this airplane. All I really had to go on was a spot on the map he showed me, telling me that it was in the hook of a river. So I should look for where the river hooked in this little area of the quadrant, and I should be able to find it. And after a while of flying lower and lower and trying to find my way around, I did find it. It was a bit tough, but this little airstrip, 800 feet long, carved out of this little tiny area of woods right by this river, was there. And as I landed, he snapped this photo. Here's the airplane. It's not a very good quality photo, but here's the airplane. I was coming in to land on final approach, taxiing the airplane, and a moment later, hopped out, felt like probably the most tired human being I've ever been in my entire life. After all that time, focus and kind of this level of strain trying to make sure you don't screw up. Because one of those things that I was really scared about was flying through restricted airspace and having some guy with a jumbo jet flying up my tailpipe, or running into military space. It was scary. It was a little exciting, but it was an incredible adventure. It was a great time, and it's been such a pleasure to share it with all of you. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm truly grateful to have each and every one of you here right now. If you have any questions about the trip, I would love to talk to you more about them. And I'd like to let you know that we actually have 2 new series coming this next week. First one should be with you on Friday, this Friday, that's actually tomorrow. We're calling it Photo Fridays. Photo Fridays is going to be excellent. I'm going to be able to share some of my photography work with you guys and tell you the adventures behind each photo, plus how I took the photo. Next series is probably going to be either on my epic motorcycle trip from Tennessee to Pennsylvania to Florida to Alaska to San Diego and back across the span of 4 months, or about my epic surf trip. I like the word epic, apparently. The surf trip I took was in a 1970 Volkswagen Bug. I've actually talked about it briefly in my video about sinking that Bug, but I do have a lot more to talk about, a lot more cool adventures and tons of photos from that trip, so I may end up sharing that. You guys let me know in the comments below which one you'd like to hear more about, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you later.